Hey everybody, it's Steph from Destination Exploration here with another Technology Thursday post for our At Home with DE series. Today we're jumping back in with TinkerCAD, but this time creating a desktop organizer that you can customize and make your own. Remember that if you missed our first tutorial when we created a name keychain, make sure to check that out as well. It'll give you some insider tips on how to get started if you've never used TinkerCAD before. And remember, once you're finished, you can always send us your STL files and we'll print them here so that when we're back in our space, you can come and pick them up. So let's jump right in. Here we go. First thing that you're going to want to do is jump on over to tinkercad.com and log in. If you don't have a login, you can sign in with your Google account or create a free account. Easy peasy. Alright, so we've gone in and created a new workspace. We're going to first rename it. So I'm going to put Desk Organizer. Perfect. And so if you are creating something that you want to send to us, just make sure that you put your name in there just so that we know who it's coming from. So the first thing that we're going to start with is creating a pen box, a couple of them, and then we'll work from there. So the first thing that we're going to do, something we haven't done before, is we're going to add in the ruler. So that's up here. We're going to grab, and then we're just going to place it kind of in this bottom left-hand corner. And this ruler is going to act as kind of an origin, a starting place, a reference point when we're building the rest of our boxes for the organizer. So to start off, we'll do the big one first. So we're going to jump over here and grab a box. So just to check out this ruler, we can see that we have the dimensions on each side and face of the box. So I can change the height, the width, and the depth, and then I have these three other dimensions. So the green lines actually show you how far away you are from that origin point. So this box, as I move it around, so I pick it up and I move it, you can see that those dimensions actually change, those distances there. So I've got this third one here that's actually our vertical axis, so it goes up and down just like that. So to get it right at the origin, I'm going to just click on the dimension itself and type in 0 for all of them. And you'll see that those green lines go away because it's going to be right there at the origin. So that's just something that we're going to use throughout this tutorial, and it's going to help a lot actually. So our first box, I'm going to make it blue, and it's going to be 50 millimeters by 50 millimeters, and then I'm going to make it 80 millimeters tall. So that's our first pen holder. So it looks really big on screen, but in reality, if you get a ruler, you can check out 8 centimeters, which is 80 millimeters, which really isn't that long. So we've got the box here, except I cannot put any pens in it because it is a solid box. So what we have to do is we've got to basically cut out a hole in the middle of it that's going to subtract the area of this rectangular prism, okay? So over here we have these, it's a box shape as well, and it comes out and it's shaded. So this is actually a hole. You can see that it's selected up here as a hole. And if I take it and I overlap the two shapes and I group them together up here with the group button, you see that I actually lose some of that space. So I can use that to start adding and subtracting different areas in order to create brand new shapes. So you're not just stuck with rectangles or circles or prisms and things like that. So it's really handy if you're doing any type of other intricate design. It allows you to just kind of customize it a little bit more. So we're just going to undo that because we don't want a notch out of the bottom. And an easy way to do this, because we're just taking a hole and we want it to be a little bit smaller, all we're going to do is we're just going to copy. So Command C or Control C and then Control V, and we're going to get these two. So right now they're both blue, which means they're both solid. If I select one of them and I press hole, I can easily change it to be something that's going to subtract the area. Okay? If I take these two again and I select both, so when you're selecting two objects or multiple objects, all you have to do is hold down Shift. Okay? And we're going to use that wonderful align tool, and we're going to align it. These are our, you can see where it would align it up. We're going to align it in the middle and the middle again. This time, if I take these two and I group them, everything goes away because it's the same size. So we're going to undo that, and we're going to manipulate this shadow, this whole box. So it was 50. We want the edges of our organizer all the way around are going to be 2 millimeters. So what we're going to do is we're just going to subtract 4 from our shape, our dimensions, because we want 2 millimeters on each side. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So we're just going to subtract, and it's going to be 46 now by 46. And the height, we want to keep it the same because it's going to be a good indicator for the second half of this, and something that we have to remember with all of the holes. So again, let's align them using the tool here to make sure that everything's good. So we can see that we now have this 2 millimeter edge, which is great. If I group them though, I get a tube. We don't want a tube. We definitely want to have a bottom layer. So that's why this ruler comes in handy, because we can now select the inside shape. So I can see that I've got that one selected. And I'm going to change this vertical value to 2. Awesome. So now we can see that we have this little bit of a overhang. And if I group them, I do in fact get kind of like a cup. That's what we want all the way through. We're not going to group each individual shape and create kind of this cup or this hollow shape first. We're going to do that at the very end, and you'll see why as we go. Okay, so we're just going to do that. We give it a view, looks great. Okay, and we'll just move that over to the corner for a second. So what we're going to do is that's our big cup holder or our pen holder, and we're going to make a little bit of a smaller one. We're going to do the exact same thing. Grab a box. I'm going to make it kind of a lighter blue, just so I can distinguish my shapes later on. I'm going to make this one 35. So again, I'm just clicking on the dimensions, 35 by 35, and this one was 80. We're going to make this one 50. So it's 3 centimeters shorter. Okay, so now I've got it there. Looks pretty good to me. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to copy, paste, turn it into a hole, and then subtract 4. So now we're going to 31 by 31, and remember to always raise it up by 2. So this way, now when I align it, I want it like center, center, and I should be good to go. Okay, and then we're going to move that over here. Our 2 pen holders, done. Simple, love it. Now, aesthetics, making it look nice. So I want mine to be kind of on an angle, make it geometric. I did a Google search and a Pinterest search, and I kind of got some ideas, and then my final one has some offset boxes and things like that. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select all 4 shapes, so the 2 holes and the 2 shapes. I'm going to bring everything back down to 0. So when I do this, I just bring it back to the 0 point on the ruler. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that these 2 boxes are right beside each other. I don't want to have any spaces, and I want them to share a wall. So we can use the ruler. So if I bring this one back down to 0, make sure I've got both of them selected, back to 0. Okay, and this guy as well is at 0, so we're good to go. Now, when I'm looking at it here, I'm going to use this axis, and I know that this is 35. So if I select both of these 2, they're 70. If I move this to 35, we can see that they're now right beside each other. That's what we want, except what we're going to do is, and I still have this lip, I want them to share this dark blue wall. So instead of 35, I'm going to subtract 2 because that's the width of my wall. So it's just going to be, instead of 35, it's going to be 33. Okay? So now we can see that there is a little bit of an overlap there, but I'm sharing that wall. I'm going to take that, I'm going to move it, and what I'm actually going to do as well is I'm just going to take it, and this little box, I'm going to move it towards me. So I'm just going to kind of bring this down here. You can either select everything or select the shapes that you want to move and just kind of use your cursor or your keyboard to jump it down. Looks about pretty good to me. Okay. And you'll see why I put it like that in a second. So that's that. We're going to jump it up into the corner. We don't need it for now. Okay, it's going to come back. The other part of my organizer, I want it to have a spot for my phone so that I can lean it up there and I can still see all the cool stuff coming in. I can see all the posts that you share with me and all the cool stuff that you're making. So I still want to be able to see the screen, which means I can't have a full box because I'll lose half of my phone screen when I do that. So I have to make a kind of a little bit different design of my box so that it works. Again, we're going to use the ruler, and this time to make sure that my phone fits inside the box, I've got my handy ruler and I've got my phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of measuring, and so that's where all these dimensions are coming from. I'm going to grab this time the box and the hole because I want to make sure that that hole is the right size. Okay, and I don't want to have to account for the edges. So I'm going to plop that down here. I know that my box needs to be 80 millimeters by 30 millimeters, okay, and it's going to be, so I've got a 50, an 80, and I'm going to make this one 65, so that it's a nice, aesthetic looking organizer on my desk, because, it's got to look pretty if it's going to be out here all the time. Okay, so I've got this shadow box here, it's kind of where my phone's going to fit. I'm going to bring this down to 0, because again, this is just a reference point and it's really easy to get messed up on where the shapes are, especially with TinkerCAD, just because of the view angles and things like that. So using the ruler is really going to help you kind of figure out where everything is in comparison to something else, okay? So here we go, I've got the box. I'm going to jump on over here and now I'm going to build the outer rim, so the actual container. I'm going to make this one, let's say, my phone, we'll make it gray. So, again, we're going to drop this down to the origin. Ooh, that was the wrong one. We're going to go 0 and 0. So if it's a negative number, it just means that it's on a different kind of angle or a different position, so closer to you. And so this box is here. We're just going to lock this so that I can't move it. So I've got my little box selected down here. And if I know that my shadow and my hole is 80 millimeters, I know that I have to add 4 now, which means that it's going to be 84. Pretty simple. And then if this was 30, now I have 34. Okay? But again, it's at the origin here, which means I have 4 extra millimeters on either side. So I'm just going to shift where that reference point is to -2 this time, and -2. And there you go. So now I've got this, and of course you're thinking, Steph, you didn't shift up the shadow box. You are correct, so I'm just going to unlock it and plop it up there. So now I've got this kind of inlet, except again, I've got to account for the fact that I want to see my screen. So I'm going to add another hole. So first we're going to jump this up so that it's a 65. Okay, and again, we're good here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another box, plop it down. Everything's still on reference to this ruler. So if I keep it at 0, and let's move it down to -2, which means that it's going to be, or -4, just to give us some leeway, which means that it's going to be able to cut open that wall. Okay, and I want the lips or the sides so that my phone still stands up. It doesn't just slip off the wall. I want it to be 15 millimeters from the inside, so the hole here. So I have to account for the edge, which means that from the origin, it's going to be 15 because that's where my inside hole is lined up to. So we're going to jump this over to 15. So if I want 15 on either side of an 80 millimeter long box, then I'm going to subtract 30. So that means that this opening is going to be 50 millimeters long. And there we go. So we're going to shift it up by 2, and we're going to make it 65 again. So now I've got this box here. So what I'm going to do, just to make it easier when things are moving, I'm going to group the 2 holes. And so I'm going to use shift and select both of them, 2 shapes, 2 holes, and just group them here. It's not going to do anything to the rest of the shapes. It just means that I can take it and move it around as this funky new shape, okay? We'll put that back in here. We'll move this over. So now we've got to basically assemble. I want my phone at the back, my 2 pen holders, and I'm going to have something in front of it, okay? So let's kind of put them together, arrange them up. So again, I've still got my shapes and the holes. Let's take a look and move this guy over here. Okay, so if I put it in here, it looks a little rough. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to shift and rotate it a little bit so that it's kind of a little more nice to look at. Again, making sure that because these holes are separate shapes, you need to select, make sure you've got 4 objects selected. So I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3, 4. We're good to go. And all I'm going to do is, we can see these little arrows that allow us to rotate. So I'm going to grab this one. The closer I am to the center, the harder it's going to be accurate. So if I pull my mouse out away, I can actually get a little bit more exact with my rotation. So I'm going to put it kind of like that for now, and it's going to sit maybe a little bit less, maybe something like that. Okay, so now when I kind of look at the top, maybe I'll bring it down a little bit more. You know what I want to do? I think I'm gonna shift it over here. So we're just gonna move it to this side, and hopefully that will work. So I'm doing this before I rotate the boxes, because if I am on a rotation there, then my forwards and backwards get messed up a little bit. So if you're having troubles, just bring it back to kind of a 0 angle, and then go from there. That's when you should do your rotation. So grab all those 4. We'll rotate it around. So we'll rotate it around like that. That's a little better. Okay. Cool. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that these 2 blue boxes don't go inside of my phone holder, because I know I need that much space to keep my phone upright, okay? So I've got it here. Looks pretty okay here, but I still have this gap. So I've moved it, and these 2 boxes, you can look kind of, we'll go a little closer so that you can see. You can see this got a little bit of an overlap, which is what we want. We don't want it to go into this shadow box, this hole. So I'm just going to move it here just so there's a little bit of overlap and touching. This box right here is going to cut out any of the extra box that's in there, which is why we didn't group it before. So we're going to group it at the end. Again, we got to get rid of this triangle. So all we're going to do is we're just going to move the shape of the box surrounding the phone holder. To do that, if we grab the white dimension boxes, okay, I move 2 dimensions at the same time. I just want to shift it and make it longer, so if I grab the black dot, I can just move it left or right like this, okay? So I'm going to slide it in so that the whole piece is kind of enveloped by the blue square, okay? And I still have this same box for my phone. Perfect. Alrighty, so we've got this here. Everything looks great. You could print this and it would be pretty cool, but what we're going to do is we're going to have kind of an area in front to put any paper clips or just random things on your desk so they're not all over the place. So let's go in and we'll move this back up here, and let's build in we're going to start this off at 0, and we're going to build in a tray. So I'm going to grab 1 box, bring it out here, change my color so I can see. So let's go with a orange. Alright, so this tray is going to have a lip, and that lip is going to go up 10. So I'm going to make it a height of 10. And I'm going to set it down at 0, because that lines up with my phone holder. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to drag it out until where I want it to be. So it can go all the way to the edge, but I want to kind of keep that geometric look to it. So I'm going to kind of go middle, and I'm going to check the back so that I don't have anything coming out between the 2. Love it. Everything looks good. Looks good over here. Amazing. So now I've got this space, this tray, but we've got to put in the holes so that we've got indents and kind of containers and spaces. Okay? So let's go back to the drawing board. Maybe we'll make this a little bit shorter. There we go. So wait, my phone's not too far away. Grab everything, bring it down to 0, 0. And then, you know, knowing me, I like full solid numbers. So we're actually going to take this orange, and we're going to change it to 150. So it just makes it a little bit longer. We'll do one more quick check on the back. We're good to go. Perfect. Now, we're going to create a name plate for us so that you can tell whose container is whose. So if you've got multiple people in your family, you can figure out where people's things are going, okay? So we're gonna add kind of a front plate to the front, this edge right here. So we're gonna jump down and we're gonna grab this wedge. We're gonna plop it in here. Right now it's facing the wrong way, so let's make it a color we can see. We're gonna use this rotation. I can go like this and I can change the angle just by typing it in, but I can also grab this and hold down shift, and it's going to change the amount that I can rotate it by 45 degrees. So I'm just going to go to 180 so that it's lined up here. We know that this orange block is 150, which means that this now needs to be 150. We know that if it starts at 0, it stays there. Now, to make sure that it's touching, we want to know that this length of the wedge is 20. But right now it's sitting at minus 26. So this point right here is at minus 26. We want that one to be minus 20. Okay? And again, this is super high. We're going to jump that back down to 10 because that's how high of our ledge is. And then we're golden. Okay, now, this is something that's really cool and very handy when you're trying to label things or build certain objects off of other ones. We're going to jump up here and grab the work plane, work tool button. Okay? We're going to click that, and as we go over our edges, you can see that TinkerCAD's actually noticing where those edges are and shifting that square. So we're just going to basically make a new work plane. So instead of working on a flat, we're going to work on the angle. We're going to work right off of this angle right here. So we can see that we're now working on that plane, which is very handy when we're putting text on there. Otherwise, you have to take the text and rotate it, and then when you use the tools, they're going all over the place and everything's disproportionate, so it's just easier if you make a new work plane. So now that we've got this plane here, I'm going to type in, we're going to come down over here, we're going to grab a text tool, plop it on, and you'll see that now when I'm sliding it, it's actually sliding on that angle. So I'm going to plop it in here. I'm going to go over here and edit it. I'm going to go Creativity, Tools. Except that's huge. So let's bring it down, change my font. Okay. I can then edit it here, and I'm just going to shrink it. Holding shift is going to keep those proportions. I can move it. Let me get it a little bit bigger. Whenever you select the wrong thing, just press undo. Okay. I'm not going to make it this tall. I'm just going to make it 2 millimeters because I don't want it to be super high so that, you know, if something gets caught in it, I think it's going to look cool like that. And then I love when things are nice and centered and aligned, so I'm going to use this align tool again. If I select the text and then the wedge and I press align, I'm going to be able to center it horizontally and center it in the middle like this, and my bottom wedge shouldn't move. Okay, so now I've got this hanging out on my yellow wedge, but now I got to get back to my regular work plane. To do that, you just go back up to this button and click anywhere, and it brings you back. Okay, so now when we look at it, we can rotate it around, we can see all the angles, everything looks like it's working, but again, we've got to make our little organizer boxes for this orange rectangle. So we're just going to go up in here, we're going to grab the box, the shadow, and this one is whatever you want to do, whatever shapes and patterns and kind of containers you want to put in this is totally up to you. I'm going to add 3. You can do a whole bunch of math in here, but for the sake of you guys listening to me talk, I'm just going to briefly do this really quickly. I'm going to use the snap grid. So every time you move, you can see that it's jumping. Right down here, the snap grid is at 1 millimeter, which means that it's jumping by 1 unit every time. So if I start and I use my eyeballs, and I can just go 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I get it 2 millimeters away from the origin. And I'm just going to bring this up. I don't want it to go right to the edge because I do want a little bit of a lip. Looks good there. Just kind of eyeballing it. Sweet. And again, don't forget, lift that up by 2, otherwise you're getting a hole. And we'll add in a couple more. So let's bring one up here and we'll put it like this. I don't want it to go into this box because I don't want a hole there. And maybe one more. Just so I can put my USB sticks or something small right there. Cool. And looks great. So again, you can do a whole bunch of math. You can make whatever shape you want. This is just what I have made. To me, that looks good. Except we have to make it all one color, one shape, so that we can export it and then print it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it in 2 steps. Because there are so many shapes and it's kind of detailed, especially for a print when it goes into the slicer because it's so small, we're going to do it in 2 steps. So if you have kind of gone free reign until now, that's totally fine, but just make sure you're doing it like this. So ungroup everything that you've got so that it's all individual shapes. What we're going to do is we're going to grab all of the solid shapes and group them together, and then we're going to subtract the holes. So I'm going to grab, make sure that you've got 1 shape, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is my text. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 shapes up here, and all I'm going to do is press group. And it's going to go, make sure it's one color. I know, I like a nice light blue. Okay, and I should still see all of my shadows. Double check that you've raised them up, because I have not on some of them. So this is another easy way to check. So if we grab all the shadows or the boxes here, I align them so that they're aligned to the bottom. And then I can just align them all to the bottom. And press 2. It raises everything up. And I'm then going to press Control A or Command A, select everything, group it all, and ta-da! I have made my very own desk organizer. My creativity tools are ready to go. And so all I have to do now is I can just take one last look. I can go around and be like, yes, that looks amazing. I'm so excited for this to be on my desk. I'm going to grab it, and all I'm going to do to make sure that I've got the right name, I'm going to jump over to export everything in this design, press .stl, it's going to export, and that's what you're sending over to us, and the email is in the description below. But there you go. You've just made your very own desk organizer, customized with whatever words you want. Remember that you can always manipulate this. This is one idea. Please go and create wonderful things. Take a look at Pinterest or Google to try and find some inspiration. But that should get you started, and hopefully make your desk a little bit more organized now that we're all in the same space. I hope you enjoyed creating with me in TinkerCAD today. I'm really excited to see what you come up with. Remember that you can send any files that you make in TinkerCAD, whether it's a keychain or a desk organizer or something else. You're more than welcome to send it over to us at the email, which is in the description below. If you missed or want to try out one of our other tutorials, you can check that out as well. And until then, we'll see you next time.